everyone. It's Friday, November 6th, 2020. Welcome to episode 36 of the Ginger and the Beard podcast. I'm AJ, aka The Ginger.
And I'm Reese, aka The Beard.
On this week's show, we'll be drinking and reviewing craft beers from Founders Brewing Company and Southern Tier Brewing Company, talking about the return of the Ultimate Fighter and UFC's talk of loosening restrictions on marijuana usage.
We'll also be talking about Apple's new privacy disclosure rules, the PS5's storage capacity, and Steam's new beta testing functionality.
But before we get started, I want to remind you to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and if you really want to help us grow, share our show with a friend. We truly appreciate your support.
Yes, and make sure to check out our YouTube chapters or the timestamps in the description if you'd like to skip around to your favorite topics. All right, man, we have a lot to cover, so let's get into this. How was your week, sir?
Long.
Oh, yeah?
Let's sum it up in one word. It was long. Yeah, no, it was a long, busy week, per usual, but got an exciting weekend planned. My wife planned some cool stuff for us. Tomorrow we're heading to Richmond, Virginia. I'm going to go see this dinosaur. It's called Jurassic Quest. Usually it's like a walkthrough exhibit thing where the kids get to see the big animatronic dinosaurs, but per COVID, we are now doing a drive-through Jurassic Quest. Oh. So that should be interesting. It's actually at like a speedway somewhere in Richmond. So I'm imagining they have giant tents with dinosaurs inside. We just get to drive through and check them all out.
It's like Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Yeah. Too bad they can't give us like a big glass ball to wheel around in. That'd be pretty dope.
Yeah.
But we're going to hit a brewery or two while we're there in Richmond, of course. Got to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. The week was long and busy, but I'm glad to be here and chatting with you and chatting with the people out there. And yeah, things are good, man. How about you? How was your week?
Week was good. Busy week. It's like every week is busy, but we went out yesterday to Home Depot and bought a bunch of wood. We bought a bunch of wood, man. We bought like 16 planks of wood. We got all the wood.
What you gonna do with that wood?
So we're gonna build like a custom made fireplace with a TV over top of it, and then we're gonna build shelves on each side, and a cabinet on each side, a drawer on each side, and it's just gonna be built right into our wall. New feature. We got it all blueprinted out, planned out. We got the lengths measured. We got it all ready to go. Now it's just sitting on the ground, ready to be put together.
That's awesome, dude. You guys are so ambitious. I legit think you should have started like a YouTube channel or an Instagram page and like documented all these home improvement projects since COVID struck.
Well,
struck.
My wife's she's the ambitious one. I'm just the one helping along. She's the one finding it all and getting us going on it. And it was, this one specifically was from an Instagrammer, and so we're just kind of, trying to, follow in their footsteps and build what they built. But I'm super excited about it. We're going to have before, during, and after pictures. And I tell you what, man, I just can't wait for it to be done because our house is a mess right now. We sold some couches to make room for it, and there's like tools all over the place, and yeah.
That's always the hard part. Any kind of home improvement, there's always a mess in the middle.
Yep.
But hopefully it'll be worth it in the end. Hopefully it's low frustration tomorrow. I know how I get when I'm doing things like that. Frustration runs rampant. I'm also a ginger, so my blood boils pretty quickly. My blood boils at a lower temperature than most humans, I feel like.
Yeah, man, I believe it. So I mean, I have to go. I'm working out in the morning too, like bright and early. Got to wake up at 6, so I gotta, once I get home from that, I'm gonna be, just kind of like drudging along trying to get this project done. But yeah, hopefully we can get it done tomorrow. Relax on Sunday. We'll see.
That's awesome, dude. Well, you got an early morning ahead of you, so we better get started, man. I think it's about time we talk about some beer.
Yeah, man. Let's get into it.
All right, man. So I forgot to put the polls up again. You guys are probably mad at me. It's all good. But the beer did clue me into some things he picked up over the weekend. A nice, large box of beers, and you specifically planned out your pairings.
Oh, yeah.
So in the future weeks, we'll definitely make sure we get those polls up because I'm excited to see what you've got. But we do have some delicious beers with us today. Today I am drinking the Founders Dirty Bastard Scotch Style Ale.
Oh, dude, I didn't realize. I just realized what you were drinking. I love this beer.
Oh, you've had this one,
Yeah,
eh?
man, I love this beer.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, I put up a post about this right before we started recording, just to sit like a little tease to what I'd be drinking tonight. And I had somebody else comment. Actually, another podcast. I guess I give them a quick shout out. The Max Allotment podcast dropped a comment and said classic. So apparently I'm in for something delicious here. So I'm gonna crack this open. I haven't had a bottle beer on this show maybe ever. It's always cans, but I'm gonna get some ASMR here.
Oh,
that was kind of a fail. Never mind.
No, that was awesome. That sounded amazing. I can't believe this is your first bottle. I mean, this is also a pretty for me to drink a beer like this is kind of for me to enjoy something like this because of it's more bitter.
Yeah.
Hopefully you like it.
I'm excited. Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like more breweries, are putting out cans versus bottles, which is weird because there's like a can shortage. So,
yeah.
But anyways, let's go ahead and give this a pour real quick.
Probably less expensive, I would assume. Oh, it's dark. Look how dark that is.
Oh
no.
Will it stay?
Whoa. Get it away from the keyboard.
All right. So for you guys not watching the video, if you like looking at delicious beers, make sure you check us out on YouTube. But yeah, that's a nice dark beer. I think the filter we're using on the camera here, I feel like makes it look a little darker than it actually is. But it's got a nice dark amber color to it. Not really hazy. It's clear, but it's definitely dark. It's got a nice thick head on it. I think we've talked about it before. I think this type of glass may contribute a little bit to the head on that beer, but yeah. Nice thick head there. Very, like I said, nice amber color. Give it a sniff.
Yeah, it looks opaque on my side. Is it opaque or can you see
No,
through
not
it?
quite. You can definitely see through it a little bit. Like I said, I think the filter we have on the video might be making it look a little darker than it actually is, but
okay.
I mean, not picking up a lot of bitterness here, and to be honest with you guys, I didn't know a lot about Scotch style ales, so I had to do a little bit of research here, and what I found is that even though they are hoppy in taste, you don't traditionally pick up on the hop aroma. I definitely find that to be true. I am picking up a little bit sort of that alcohol sort of smell to it. There's a little bit of smokiness in there, but a lot of maltiness. I think that's one thing that the Scotch style ales are kind of known for, is their overwhelming malt flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a sip. Yeah, that's very good. Definitely heavy on the malts, which I'm trying to get a little bit more into this season. I kind of want to step away a little bit from the IPA. So last time I went to the store, I picked up some more seasonal type beers, kind of get my palate a little bit more experienced in these sort of things, and but definitely bitter. It's not like the fest beer I had last week from Highwire where there's like barely any bitterness at all. Definitely bitter. Which I was expecting. 50 IBUs. It's 8.5% ABV. But I definitely pick up a lot on the malt. Some caramel notes in there, I would say. A little smoky. I don't really get a lot of the strong alcohol taste, though. I was kind of expecting, just based on the style, the Scotch style ale, to pick up a little bit more on the alcohol content. But really, I think it's just kind of buried underneath that malt flavor.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to know, what makes it a Scotch style ale. Did they, did they use peat to, flavor it, and the smoke from the peat, did they use it to flavor it? And then, did they age it in, oak? I'm wondering.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I might have to do a little bit more research on that. But from what I did find is that they usually do have that light smoked peat flavor. How they get that, I'm not exactly sure, but some do attribute this to sort of similar to like the Scottish version of an English style barley wine. And I know you had a barley wine.
Oh yeah.
Last week. But again, I'm not very experienced in barley wines either. But yeah, this is really good, man. I mean, obviously you've said you've had it before. I was kind of expecting a little bit more sweetness. I think the malt, depending on the type of malt and how much malt there is, that does usually lend itself to a sweeter flavor profile. Not really a lot of sweetness that I'm picking up from this. But I do definitely enjoy it. It kind of leaves a little bit of a dry finish in the mouth. Kind of sticks around to that next sip, which I personally prefer. I like that. I know some people differ there, but yeah, overall, man, this is really good. I'd recommend you guys check it out. Founders Dirty Bastard Scottish Style Ale. I feel like this is probably a fairly common beer, so I'm sure you can find it near you. So give it a shot.
Founders does such a good job, man. I just, sometimes I forget about Founders when I'm thinking about like my favorite breweries, but I definitely, Founders is definitely one of my favorite breweries, man. They do such a good job with their dark beers. I really like them.
Yeah, and before we move on, I think it's interesting. It's always interesting. The more sips you taste, and the longer you kind of let it
reminisce,
evolve.
Okay.
Yeah, evolve a little bit in your mouth. I actually do pick up a little bit on that sort of like an alcohol sort of taste. I'm not a big hard liquor drinker in general. I'm not sure if I've ever even had a Scotch before, but there definitely is some more of that stronger alcohol content on the finish as I kind of let it sit there for a second. So
nice.
You can definitely expect that. Look out for that if you try this out. So yeah, pretty pleased with that one. But what about you, man? What do you have for us tonight?
All right, man. I have a Southern Tier, another good brewery that I recommend to folks. Southern Tier Nitro Creme Brulee from their Blackwater series. Yeah, so this is a Imperial milk stout. Commonly, this one's considered a oh wow.
Oh, love that sound.
Did you hear that? Wow.
Nitro, man.
It kind of gargled a little there. That was interesting. Yeah. So yeah, this is like a dessert beer, right? Brewed with vanilla beans. So it's labeled as an Imperial milk stout. Usually when they say Imperial, I think that kind of lends itself to more of like a bitter flavor to it, a little bit more hoppiness typically. And so, but they're calling this one sweet milk stout. So let's go ahead and pour it up. I don't have my handy dandy ginger in the beard glass today, but we'll make up for that next time. That's a good pour right there.
Nice.
You can see the carbonation. Well, not the carbonation. I guess the
nitro.
The nitro kind of just making its way through. That's what I love that about, like, if you ever had a Guinness, man, that's like Guinness does it so well. It's like my favorite thing about that. But these guys did a great job. Look at that head, man. So this is
it's beautiful.
Certainly very dark brown, opaque. I can't see through it at all. So I would say this is just straight up extremely dark brown, black, almost opaque, with a very I don't know if I'm going to say thin, but the head on it is very uniform, very tiny bubbles, very uniform. It just looks very soothing, as I let it rock from one side of the glass to the other. It just kind of, it just makes me happy, I don't know what it is. I love the nitros.
Yeah, man, I do too.
Yes.
And actually, interestingly enough, yesterday was International Stout Day. So happy International Stout Day to you, sir.
Cheers to Stout Day, my man. All right, let's see. Whoa, that was. Whoa, it smells like a candle. You ever been
good?
You ever been
good or bad?
You ever been to Bath and Body Works?
I have many a time.
I feel like I just popped the lid off of a candle. That's insane.
Creme brulee candle.
Yeah, man, that is like so strong. Vanilla, caramel, huge on, like, it just smells like a vanilla caramel candle, basically. I mean, that's probably like the best way that I could describe it. So, all right, let's see if it tastes like that. Wow. That was thick. Very thick, sugary, man. It's like, it's like very thick, and then you can just like instantly it turns sticky because of all the sugars. I feel like,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, smooth though, certainly because of the nitro, I would say. And then just right back at the very, very, it's very sweet, very, very sweet caramel vanilla flavor to it. You know, kind of a lot of molasses, I think, on that one. This is very intense, dude. I feel like I need to like pair this with like something like very salty, like a pretzel, or just like a handful of salt, just to like offset this. This is intense. This is crazy. I've never.
Sounds good.
It sounds good. I don't think I've ever had a beer that's this sweet before.
Wow, I'm actually interested in trying that.
I don't think I could drink more than one of these.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I'm gonna have a headache because I just ate like a whole bag of candy. Like this is Halloween in a bottle. You know, all the Halloween candy that you got, just throw it out the door. All you need is a can or two of this, and you're good.
Man, that's kind of what I've been looking for. I've been looking for some more dessert beers. So
yeah,
I should give it a shot.
Yeah, you if you're looking for a dessert beer, I've had plenty of dessert beers, and like they're really hit or miss, and most of the time they're miss. You know, I'd say this one hit as a dessert beer, but it's a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah,
I think. But that's just me. You know, you might try it and say, yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. This is,
right.
You know, it's the sweetest beer I think I've ever had. So yeah, maybe that's what you're going for. Overall, yeah, I mean, certainly an experience. You know, not your everyday drinker, not something that I would want to drink during the summer months. You know, this is certainly, I think, like a curl up next to a campfire on a really cold night. You know, have a couple s'mores and then drink this, and you're gonna have a sugar rush. Yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, so that's it for the beers. So you know, give it a shot, guys, if you try. Southern Tier Creme Brulee. Also, you know, Founders Dirty Bastard. Really happy you picked that up. That's awesome, dude. I'm you know, hopefully you're enjoying it. It sounds like you are. And you know, I recommend certainly Dirty Bastard to everybody. And if you're looking for an adventure, go ahead and pick up Creme Brulee by Southern Tier Brewing. But that's it for beer, man. I think we got some UFC Shenanigans to talk about.
We do indeed.
All right, man. You want to start us off?
Yeah, so exciting news. The Ultimate Fighter Season 29 will air in March 2021.
Whoa.
This is exciting news to me. I did not realize, number one, that there had been this many seasons. I think I watched some of the very early seasons when I was like in high school, and now this makes me feel very old that there's been 20 plus seasons since that point. I think the season I watched was the Tito Ortiz, Ken Shamrock. I also watched the John Jones and Chael Sonnen season, and I believe the BJ Penn season. So even though I think he's been on a couple times. So yeah, I can't believe there's been this many seasons, but they've been on a 2-year hiatus for whatever reason. And they're returning in 2021, featuring the men's bantamweight and middleweight fighters. So a group of bantamweights and middleweights. They're actually casting right now. They're doing virtual casting, which I thought was interesting, and that ends on November 13th. So I guess I'm not sure how you virtually cast for something like The Ultimate Fighter. I also don't know what's required of your casting tapes. Like, do you have to show some clips of your fights maybe, or like, you know, training videos? I don't know how that works. I mean, it's not like a singing audition.
Here's my strategy, right? I get a video of Paulo Costa, right? And then I just deep fake it with my face and I send that in. And then when I show up, I say, well, yeah, I had a couple donuts, you know, I had a couple donuts over the past couple weeks, you know, yeah. Well, it's all right. Awesome. I'll work it off.
That's totally plausible in this day and age, man. We've got the technology.
Yeah.
We can do this thing.
I'm going to trick them.
So yeah, casting ends November 13th. So if you out there listening happen to be somebody who thinks you could make it on The Ultimate Fighter and you happen to listen to The Ginger and the Beard, make sure you get your casting tapes in before November 13th. But what's interesting to me is that the season's going to air in March of 2021. Kind casting ends November 13th. So they've got to make their selections of who will be on the season and then film all of that before that air date. You know what I'm saying? So that's a very short window of time. I've only been involved in a few different like video production, or video productions. And I know that it takes a long time just to make very short like commercial spots and things like that. So to film an entire reality TV series in that amount of time seems pretty absurd to me. Seems like a very accelerated timeline, but I guess, if you think back to the seasons, I guess there is like one fight per week, maybe more in some cases. So I guess they can get through it kind of quick. But my other question is, what about coronavirus? Like you're getting all these fighters in one room. Like, are they going to do like a bubble situation where you've got to test? And I mean, obviously I think they all live in the same house. So I guess they can, regulate that way. But if something were to happen and one of them were to catch it, it might shut down production entirely.
Right, exactly. Because, I mean, I can understand them all being like quarantined to that house, but you have cameramen and, whoever else they're interacting with, right? So,
yep. Which I feel like the UFC up until this point has done a pretty good job. It seems like, think how many events we've had since the coronavirus, and there's maybe been a handful of fighters at least made public that have come down with coronavirus. So they're doing something right.
Yeah.
I guess
UFC Petri dish.
They can carry that over, hopefully, to the Ultimate Fighter. But the big question that everyone's talking about and everyone's asking is who's going to be the coaches? They have not announced the coaches for either team at this point. I've seen some speculations. I've seen some suggestions. I've got some suggestions of my own. I'm curious to hear yours. But let me go ahead and just rattle off the few that I was kind of thinking about, and you can tell me what you think. Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker.
Well, it's middleweight and bantamweight, right?
Yeah, so Israel's middleweight.
I feel like they would. I don't pass.
Pass. I've seen some suggestions that people, and I kind of agree with this. Some folks are leaning towards Israel and Jan Blachowicz, which obviously is a light heavyweight fight,
right?
But Israel, holds the middleweight belt, and that's an upcoming fight already scheduled.
The Jan versus Izzy fight is the one that's already coming. So
right.
that's happening in like 3 months? I can't remember. I think it's gonna be. So this is my guess is whoever wins that fight and holds the middleweight I can't talk, the middleweight title, and then whoever the number one contender is, and then they're gonna use that to sell that fight,
right?
Promote that fight.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because typically what happens is at the end of the season, shortly after that, the fight between the coaches happens. So the fight would have to time out after filming ends. After the season releases. So I don't know when Jan and Izzy fight is actually scheduled, but it doesn't feel like it's going to pan out to me in terms of timing.
So I think that if Izzy and Jan fight before this happens, and Izzy wins, I think it's going to be Izzy and the winner of Santos versus Teixeira, which is happening this weekend, which I think is going to be Thiago Santos.
Yep.
So I think it would be Izzy versus Santos, and then if Jan wins against Izzy, I think it's going to be Jan and Santos. That's my guess.
Where does Robert Whittaker fit into that picture?
But Robert Whittaker he's this is middleweight. Wait, why would it be Jan? Yeah, it would be Izzy and Robert Whittaker, I think. That's the only thing that makes sense. That's the only thing that makes sense, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know the history of the Ultimate Fighter enough to say that there's never been coaches who are in a different weight class than the people they are coaching. Mixed martial arts is mixed martial arts. The guys that are fighting at 265 are doing some of the same stuff the guys that fighting at flyweight are doing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see why why they would have to be in the same weight class. It makes sense, but I don't know why it's completely necessary. And in that case, I was thinking Stipe and Francis. I feel like Stipe may have already been a coach at one point. on the Ultimate Fighter, but
Mhm.
Francis has not been. That's going to be a really, I don't think they've even scheduled that fight yet, but that's obviously going to be a lot of hype around that one.
Yeah. I can't see Francis being a coach, though. I don't think he's really got that much experience.
Really? You don't think so?
Not like enough to be coaching other people, I don't think.
Yeah, maybe.
He's still he's still learning the game, I feel like.
Right.
But so I think they try and stick with the weight classes. I could be wrong on that, but if memory serves me correctly, that's what they try to do. I'm going to go with Izzy versus Robert, but I mean, who knows, man? You just never know. So much time could pass, so many things could happen. Who knows?
Right. And I'm actually looking at an article right now that's saying that it's from Essentially Sports. Jan Blachowicz saying that he's not ready to fight Israel Adesanya until March. So in that case, that fight could time out to after the series. If it's going to air in March, series is definitely not going to be over. I don't know. That's a tough one, man. It's so many possibilities. I saw some people were looking at maybe Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington.
Oh, yeah. That would be awesome.
I like that, but also those two guys, I don't see them being like TV personalities. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I guess Colby Covington's ripe for drama.
Yeah, I could see Colby. I could see them both, man. I guess it's gonna be if they go with those two, dude. Each episode is gonna be like edge of your seat. These guys are about to bite each other's heads off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that is the one. Maybe that would be a good one. I know that there's talks of those two fighting, but I don't know that there's anything been booked at this point. But
I don't know.
That could play out for sure. So, anyways, you guys out there, let us know what you think. Who do you think would make the best coaches for this season, this upcoming season? Make sure you drop a comment on Instagram or YouTube and let us know. But moving on from that topic, we got some interesting news around marijuana usage in the UFC. So recently there's been a lot of suspensions, a lot of fines around marijuana usage, a lot of stories coming up about John Jones and things like that of his past usage. Nick Diaz, obviously his major suspension back in the day of 5 years after repeated offenses. But something interesting happened this Thursday, so just yesterday at the time of this recording, after Dana White's Contender Series episode or fight. The Nevada Athletic Commission placed 2 fighters on suspension. Those are lightweight Kevin Creme and a Dana White's Contender Series fighter, Jose Flores, both because they tested positive for cannabis usage. So essentially what happened is in this post-fight interview, Dana's at the table with the microphone and somebody asks him about this. And this is the first time he had heard about it. So he said something along the lines of like he was shocked and had said something about, we've been working with the Nevada State Athletic Commission to basically loosen the restrictions around marijuana usage with the UFC. So he was surprised. He basically said like they must have been well over the limit in order to receive a suspension and fines. So I looked into it a little bit more and I'm like trying to figure out what exactly is the rule around marijuana usage, and it turns out fighters can actually use it recreationally without much consequence, but the only problem is they have to be clear of it. It has to be cleared out of their system before the time of the fight, before that first test, and there is actually a limit. The limit was recently raised from 50 nanograms per milliliter, which is how they measure the potency of the drug. It was raised from 50 nanograms per milliliter to 150 nanograms per milliliter, which is a 300% increase. I'm not sure what that really amounts to in terms of how much you can actually smoke before it gets to that level. But essentially they can't test above that level before the fight. And I think they test after the fight as well. So really what they're trying to avoid is people showing up to the fight high. So if you can follow those restrictions, you can still live your life, do your thing, just clear yourself out before you show up for the fight. So I don't know. This is a very interesting, relevant topic. I'm curious what you think about all this.
I think it's ridiculous. I think they should just remove it entirely. It shouldn't be a limitation. The suspensions on these kids, what are you talking about? Like, do they really think that I mean, I don't know. I guess they could see it as some type of performance enhancer because, it helps your muscles relax and
Yep.
recuperate. So, I mean, that's probably what it is. So you might have an advantage there, but it's, you know, it's not like steroids, and I mean, there's not really any, I don't know how much testing they've done behind it to see like how it would actually benefit, a fighter. So if there is testing and in journals that kind of support that it would benefit a fighter, then let us know, you listeners out there. But it's not something that I know about, and but just from my point of view, I don't think it should impact them right now until there's concrete evidence that it does lead to a advantage for a fighter.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's also, I mean, we've talked about it before. Number one, it's an illegal substance, right? So you don't want your athletes going around, if you allow them to smoke weed, do you allow them to snort cocaine? Do you allow them to shoot hair? Like, what I mean? It gets a slippery slope.
But it's not, it's decriminalized in a lot of places now. So
yeah,
you can
true.
possess
I'm not sure
it.
if Nevada is one of those.
Yeah, I don't know either, actually. I would assume so, being as
probably
Sin City,
Yeah, you would think. But I wonder if maybe from the UFC's perspective, and also I'm not sure how much control they have over it compared to the state commission. You know what I mean? It's different probably in each state that they put on events. But I mean, if anything, you would think that it would slow down your reaction times. It would give you more of a disadvantage than an advantage. But in that case, I wonder if the UFC is looking at it more from, well, you're impacting the outcome of the fight regardless, one way or the other. You're making it easier for your opponent to win because your reaction time is decreased. But also maybe there is some advantage in terms of pain receptors being dulled. Maybe it's less, I don't know, maybe there's like you said, there's not a lot of science around. Is it harder to be knocked out when you're stoned? I don't know. Who knows, man? It's crazy. But yeah, I thought it was interesting nonetheless. Thought it was worth bringing up. I guess we'll see what changes come our way. And obviously in this election, some states have loosened up restrictions on drugs in general. So we'll see how that affects, all sports, moving forward.
Yeah, man. Who knows what the future holds for us, but yeah, this is a weird one. I don't think it should be monitored unless they know, concrete evidence that it has some kind of effect. But
yeah, I mean, one thing we could say is that, there's a lot of studies around marijuana usage and how it can, help with different ailments, maybe help in the recovery phase. And so many fighters go through different types of injuries and strains on your bodies and things like that. I know a lot of fighters promote CBD oil and how that can, help recovery. So injuries is definitely something to consider. And speaking of injuries, we've got somebody dropped out of a fight because of an injury.
Yes, sir, we do. Darren Till is now out of the December 5th UFC Fight Night main event against Jack Hermansson. We don't know any information about Till's injury. It's not been released to the public yet. We just know that he's out. He's out, but they have found a replacement. Kevin Holland, who I haven't been following, is set to replace Darren Till on December 5th. A couple interesting, things to point out for Kevin Holland is he's fought 4 times already in 2020. So this guy has been,
oh my gosh,
very, very active. And out of those 4 fights, he's won every single one of them. So he's unbeaten in 2020 so far. He's got an overall record of 25-0. So decent record for sure. And then you got Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson's he was on a fight tear, man. He was doing really good, and then he went against Cannonier. Cannonier, kind of leveled the playing field there. Hermansson lost, and then Hermansson came back against Kelvin Gastelum, who's certainly no slouch. But he beat Kelvin Gastelum in 79 seconds via submission. So Hermansson's coming off a win, very promising win there. He's going to be fighting Kevin Holland on December 5th. For the UFC Fight Night event. What do you think, man? What do you think about all this?
Honestly, I can't. Like you said, I haven't really followed Kevin Holland. He's a relatively new name in the UFC. It looks like. He's probably been fighting on, even though he did fight Thiago Santos back in 2018, which I don't recall that fight, but he lost. So yeah, I mean, he looks like he's on a pretty insane tear right now. He's won his last 6 fights. It looks like. Yep. 4 fights he's won in 2020, and he won 2 in 2019.
I think he lost his last fight in 2019.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading that backwards. He lost his last fight to Brendan Allen. So yeah, this is interesting, man. I like to see
doing good though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see some new blood. I mean, if anything, the middleweight division we just talked about a couple weeks ago, like with Adesanya potentially moving to light heavyweight to essentially chase down John Jones. Let's be real. He's not really that interested in the Yan fight. He's chasing down John Jones. With him making that move, it kind of leaves the middleweight division in question, and you can see some interim title belts in the future. But I like to see some new blood come up into that top 15. And actually, do you know, is Kevin Holland ranked? I'm not even sure. Let's take a look.
No, he's not ranked. And so another thing that I saw was they offered the fight to 6 other fighters in the top 10, and they all declined. So nobody wanted to fight.
That's surprising.
Nobody wanted to fight Jack Hermanson for some reason, and so everybody declined. And they said, "Hey, Kevin Holland, you're number 7 in line. You want to fight?" He said, "Yeah, man, I want to fight. Let's fight."
Yeah. So what does that mean for somebody who's out of the top 15 that defeats the number 4 ranked fighter in the middleweight division? I mean, that would be huge.
It's huge. He would skyrocket. He would take the 4th. He would probably take the number 4 position. Jack Hermanson would probably drop to number 5, and then you got a new contender.
Yeah, definitely. So that's exciting, man. I'm definitely looking forward to that event. I mean, we're just a couple weeks out from that one. So yeah, I'm curious what Jack Hermanson's injury is, though. It must have been. It kind of sucks that these fighters. Darren Till's injury. I like Darren Till a lot just because I think he's a positive personality in the sport. He's a shit starter for sure. Like if you follow him on social media, he's constantly trolling people, but he does it in like a funny way. I've said it before on the show. Like he photoshops his face on other fighters' faces and like just does funny stuff on Instagram that just like it's different than him like calling out people's moms and like ragging on their deceased parents and stuff like that. He just does funny stuff. So. He's a lot of fun to watch. So hopefully he makes a speedy recovery, and he's got a lot of promise in this division as well. So
yeah, dude, I like Darren Till a lot, man. He's pretty cool. And I'm wondering because he fought Whitaker in his last fight, and he got injured during that fight. So I'm wondering if this is just lingering injury from that fight that he hasn't fully recuperated from.
What was that injury? Do you remember?
I think it was an ACL. It was one of the. It was a ligament in his knee, but it wasn't the.
That sucks.
I think the MCL is the big one. If you mess up the MCL, you got to get some pretty big surgery done. The ACL is the one that kind of just naturally repairs itself over time.
Nice. Yeah, you don't want to mess around those. Don't want to mess around with those ligament injuries for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely not.
Awesome. Well, I think that about does it for the UFC Shenanigans segment. Obviously, we've got a fight coming up tomorrow night. Really excited for this one, especially the main event. So we'll be reporting back on that maybe in our next Friday episode, because coming up Tuesday, I think we're going to have a guest interview. So that'll be taking place of our weigh-in special. So make sure you guys tune into that. And then we'll be chatting about the UFC Fight Night in our next regular episode. But until then, we've got some tech news going on.
All right, man. Well, let's jump right into it, dude. You got some Apple news for us, man? This is interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And if you out there are listening, are interested in protecting your privacy, this is Apple's #1 selling feature. And I feel like every episode I talk about Apple and iPhone, I can see it in the beard's eyes. He's considering an iPhone more and more every day.
Oh, man.
I don't know if that's exactly true, but
peer pressure.
Yeah. So When Apple announced iOS 14 earlier in the year, one of the things that was an interesting feature was that they were going to be requiring developers to essentially create what they were calling nutrition labels, privacy nutrition labels, air quotes, for their apps that they're putting into the store. So Apple, as we all know, has been pretty stringent on the apps they allow into their app store for users to download, period, point blank, period. You have to go through some pretty rigorous screenings and things to get your apps in the app store. So automatically you have a little bit of a safeguard there immediately. But if you're somebody who's concerned about your privacy, you don't like third-party companies looking at your information, you now have another safeguard in place with the App Store as of December 8th. So as of December 8th, these privacy and nutrition labels, developers will have to essentially put out, before you download an app, if you show interest in downloading the app, they'll have to show you up front, hey, if you install this app is going to be looking at your location history. It's going to be looking at your financial data. It's going to be looking at your browsing history, your purchases, your contact info, all these things. It puts it, I wish we could show a picture of it. You guys should go check it out yourself. But there's like a little card that it displays, and it very apparently shows you the icons that represent all these different things that the app will be looking at. And it's not always for nefarious reasons. Like if you download a map application, let's just say you don't like using Apple Maps, you'd prefer to use Google Maps. Google's going to have to tell you, hey, this is going to be looking at your location history. It's going to be looking at your browsing history so that it can give you recommended places to visit. It's going to be looking at your purchases so it knows where you visited and can give you suggestions, things like that. It's going to know where you work so that it can tell you how long it takes for you to get to work. It's not always for nefarious reasons, but it's just things to be mindful of. So if you're the kind of person who likes to stray away from apps that look at that kind of behavior, it's not going to be buried in some sort of legal jargon in this lengthy contract that nobody's going to read, this 20-page document that you have to agree to when you download an app. It's not going to be buried down in there anymore. It's going to be put right in front of you to make that decision. So that's going to be really, really interesting to me. I tend to be less cautious, and maybe that's a bad thing. I don't really care that much. Maybe as we progress and things get scarier and scarier with the government, maybe my opinion would change. But how do you feel about that? I feel like you are the opposite of me, and you are a little bit more cautious about those things.
Big Brother is watching. Conspiracy theories. Everybody's out to get you. UFOs are real. I saw Sasquatch last weekend. Nessie's swimming in my bathtub. Anyway.
Oh, really? You captured Nessie?
I did. Yes. Nestea. It's just filled with iced tea.
Oh, Nestea. Got it. Now that I can get into, a bathtub full of Nestea.
I used to be so cautious about this kind of stuff, and I still kind of am, but I'm definitely more lenient because, I don't know. It's just like, what can they do with it? I mean, they're just trying to profit off of my data. I mean, that's all it is. They're not out there trying to harm me. They're not trying to attack me. Nobody's trying to, I don't know, frame me for murder or something using my data, right? Like they're just trying to get my data so that they can find out what I want to see and profit off of me. That's all it is, which, I mean, is certainly a privacy issue. I don't want them to capture my information and know what I want to do and yada, yada, yada. But, right. So I love this idea. Our law, our system, our judicial system is like 20 years behind the curve. I feel like on like the tech and internet is just like taken off, and law is still at the starting line, right? Yep. Like the judicial code and everything is still at the starting line, and it's not protecting U.S. citizens at this point. It's not protecting any of us in some ways. I mean, yeah, there's certain protections, and I'm wondering if this one is driven by some judicial code. And if it's not, then bravo to Apple for taking the initiative to make users aware of things like this, because you and I are certainly more aware of what's happening in the tech space and we're kind of more hip to like the new, the new stuff that's coming out and all of, everything that's been kind of happening, lately. But, grandma out there, she's, she doesn't know what any of this stuff is. They're just capturing her data and she has no idea why. So,
Right.
maybe while grandma's looking through the app store, she'll see this and be like, oh, really? What's this about? And then, oh, this app wants to know where I'm at, wants to know my location. Are you serious? And then she probably won't get that app. But, yeah, man, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, and I think it is a kudos to Apple too. Like they make so many strides. I think there's a lot of things these big tech companies do, but a lot of it you can kind of exclude Apple from the conversation, at least from what we know, right? It seems like they make pretty good strides in protecting your data, encrypting your messages, whether you agree with it or not, not even allowing law enforcement to kind of hack into a device of a criminal. That's kind of a on the fence sort of topic for a lot of people. But yeah, so say what you will about Apple, but they definitely do go out of their way to kind of make it harder for people to get access to your data. So the one caveat to this is that developers will be self-regulating in a sense. So they will be the ones to say, hey, on this flashy new card, I need to say that I'm looking at your location data. So they're the ones controlling what shows up on that card. So there's still some potential there for withholding of information. I'm sure Apple's probably got some things in place to check for that. But yeah, this will be coming in a future iOS update. So look out for that.
Super exciting. Very happy to hear about that. I got an update on the Google side. So, kind of, not privacy related, but some functionality related information. So Google added a paid color pop feature to its Google Photos editing feature. And so I think that, you can go into your phone right now, right? And if you use portrait mode, then you get this free feature for editing photos. And it's just called Color Pop. And usually you got to be taking a picture of somebody. I tried it earlier with my beer photo and it didn't work. It added some grayscale to certain areas and then color to other areas. And it just completely didn't work. So I think you have to use it with an actual picture of somebody's face for the color to pop, which, kind of weird to me, but that's the free version, right? So you got to basically, it works on photos with depth information such as portrait mode. That's the free version. So they're adding a paid version now. If you subscribe to Google One, this option is made available for even more photos of people, including those without depth information. So they specifically said photos of people, but it doesn't have to have the depth information anymore. So you'll be able to color pop things that are kind of just like flat, more or less. But again, that's if you have Google One. So the first paid tier of Google One is $2 a month, which really isn't much. It includes additional cloud storage, access to Google Experts, and an option to add family. But it also has like this kind of like ominous other extra member benefits associated with it. And I think that's what this is what they're talking about, is this color pop feature, is the extra member benefits, where it doesn't really get into details. It doesn't explicitly state what those benefits are. So apparently color pop is one. Data miners actually have been just kind of going into this latest update and trying to figure out, what they can find. And they have discovered that Google has some code, some like preparation code just like sitting there. And it looks like they're preparing to add some more features tied to the Google One subscription. They're not really sure what those features are, but it looks like they're laying the groundwork for some more features with the Google One sub. So I know a lot of big companies are moving towards this like paid subscription platform to try and get that like recurring revenue, model so that they can keep making extra money. So I think that's what Google's doing here. They're trying to add extra functionality, which, I think makes sense. And even their like tier 3, which gives you 2 terabytes of storage, which I think is pretty cool. It's only $10 a month. So, I mean, it's very affordable. And, hopefully they keep coming out with some pretty cool benefits. I know you're real keen on the photo, on taking photos on your phone and everything, and I'm trying to get better at it, but I like seeing everything that they've done as far as photos go and all of the different editing functionality. I think it's usually pretty clean. I'd like to see if I can get this color pop to work on an actual portrait. Now that I didn't really realize what it was until today, so I'll probably try it out in the future.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And when I had the Pixel 2 XL, I was very impressed by what they could do just with software. So their portrait mode, instead of using 2 cameras like Apple's iPhone 10 did when it first came out with portrait mode, it used 1 camera and machine learning to figure out the depth information and create the portrait mode, which still to this day, I think Apple's Pixel 2, which I can speak from experience, did a better job at portrait mode than my Apple iPhone 11 Pro Max.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so especially when it comes to inanimate objects like a beer bottle or something like that, the Google Pixel was multitudes better when it comes to portrait mode. So I'm interested in seeing what the color pop looks like. I haven't actually seen a photo. Maybe I have. I don't really know that I've seen a photo that has the color pop feature on there. But what I'm really interested in is Google charging for an added service, because Google traditionally, when they release stuff beyond storage, like you just mentioned, everything usually is free because they're making their money off of data, like we were just talking about. They're making their money off of data and ad buys. So they mine your data, they serve you with ads. Companies then serve you with ads relative to your search history, and that's how they make their money. So this is definitely interesting. I wonder why they're getting to this sort of model where there's like pay to play features. But I'm sure people will pay for it. I mean, if it's part of this, like if storage is what they're primarily promoting and it's like, oh, and plus you get these other features, I guess that's cool. But then for people who don't care about storage but want the photo features, it's kind of a crappy situation. So yeah, definitely interested. I'm interested now in what these extra member benefits might be, because they might be some real high value additions if Google's actually considering charging for them.
And that would be the selling point that I would want to see is tell me what these member benefits are. Right. Because I'm not as interested in the storage. That's not really going to do anything for me. I don't really care about the Google experts. Like I can Google it myself, and then also the option to add family. It's like, I could go without that, but give me some of these cool benefits, and then maybe we'll talk more.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, I think that does it for the tech segment. We've got some other storage-related news to talk about in our video games segment.
All right, man. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we got some news out now of the PS5's internal storage. So the PS5 not yet released, but reviews are out and people are talking about all the features. One big talking point is the storage space. So whenever you buy a console, I'm not sure exactly what the PS5 they tout for the storage space. I'm betting it's a terabyte. That's always a caveat. It's a terabyte total storage. It's not factoring in the operating system of the device itself and all the built-in, software that it has to store on that same drive. So your actual free space, it turns out, for the PS5 will be 667 gigabytes. So that's the space that you have to install games and any other apps and things like that you want to put on the device. So at launch, this is the other interesting point. The PS5 is not going to offer expandable storage. It's not going to support expandable storage at launch. So that's going to come probably in a later update, I would imagine. But for people who play pretty large games, this is a bummer, man. This is always an issue. This is an issue with PC gamers as well. There's just never seems to be enough storage for the games you want to buy. So just to kind of put this into perspective for you guys, since you can't store games on an external drive right now, you've got to install them all on the internal drive that comes built into the console. If you were to download Call of Duty Modern Warfare, That's 175 gigabytes off the jump. Destiny
Jeez.
2, 165. Red Dead Redemption, 100. So all these things together add up very quickly to 600 gigabytes. So you might get 4, what do they call them?
Games.
Yeah, 4 like blockbuster games, I guess whatever you call them, like these
AAA games.
AAA. Yeah, I'm like, why can't I think of this word? Blockbuster. We should coin that one.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, you might get 3 or 4 of these AAA games installed in your console before you're out of space, and then you've got this situation where you've got to uninstall to install something else. So I'm curious, like, what's the future, man? Like, where we go from here? At some point, the physical space, the drives, they haven't gotten much smaller in a long time. Actual physical space of the drives, is it cloud storage? We're moving into cloud gaming with things like, NVIDIA Shield and Google Stadia and things like that. I mean, is that really our only option, you think?
I don't think so. I think that, there was a big change, maybe not recent, but, in the past decade, we went from hard disks to SSDs, which, the SSD form factor is like insanely small compared to what a hard disk had to be. And it's just really surprising to me. They limited themselves to a 0.5 terabyte. I mean, with as expensive as this thing's going to be, and, the size that games are now with all of the different, I'm wondering like how compressed they made them to get them to, 175 gigabytes. I mean, I would assume it's very compressed, rendered down and everything. But I mean, I'm surprised it's not like 2 terabytes in there, right? So maybe it's a sales thing, right? Maybe it's a profit thing where it's like, we'll start you out here because we know you're going to run out of space. And then, hey, guess what? 3 months from now, hey, you just ran out of space. Well, guess what? Expandable storage. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head though. When, the cloud storage that's the future, is everything's going to be stored on servers, and you're going to access them remotely, through your, PlayStation device. I mean, at this point, like, it's a gaming console. I mean, you might as well make it a computer. Like, they're basically going to be computers before, like, if they're almost like computers now,
Yeah. Yeah, they basically are just stylized computers that basically just serve one function. And to your point, I think the reason why it's only a terabyte, it's a terabyte again, minus all the operating system stuff that's stored on there. I mean, you look at some of the high dollar SSDs you can buy for your gaming rig, you're already looking at 100, 150, just for the SSD alone. I think the PS5 starts at around $300. So you're getting that storage, the compute, the GPU, the, all that stuff. That's a very reasonable price when you can, all things considered. And I think that's probably what limits them. They have to compete with the other consoles in the market, and they have to stay in that price point. So that probably is what the limiting factor is. But I think cloud storage really is the way to go. I mean, at some point, we're going to get to a place where all you buy is a controller, and everyone's going to have smart TVs, and you just pay for Google, whatever, cloud gaming, and all your games are streamed from the cloud. You don't have to download anything.
Yeah, it'll be like Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. But in this weird midway point, it's kind of a weird situation where you still buy discs in some cases, but even when you buy a disc, you stick it in, it has to install the game. So it still installs the game, regardless of if you have the disc or not. Or you can buy the version of the console that doesn't even have a disc drive. You still have to install the game. But even with cloud storage, like, if I decide one day I don't want to play GTA anymore, I want to play Red Dead, I've got to uninstall GTA. I've got to wait for Red Dead to install to my platform before I can play it, unless I'm streaming it from the cloud. So I don't know. There's a lot to discuss there.
Yeah, because it's different, because you're not, when you're watching a TV show, it's just all the, it's low data in comparison. There's low processing because all they're just showing is images, a bunch of images, right? It's not like a game where there's, the images aren't static, it's always constantly changing, and there's physics at play, and you know, it's a lot more than just a
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
So I guess kind of sticking with the video game news, cloud gaming, cloud storage. We all know about Valve's Steam, and they're trying to kind of get to this kind of functionality as well. I think is they're trying to move towards this cloud storage and whatnot. But they've actually been adding some cool functionality recently, and one of those is they have this new playtest functionality, which I just learned about today. And so it's adding a change to the Steam client, which allows you to playtest games without entering a Steam access code. So I guess before I even get into this, like, have you done playtesting before for anything?
No. This is the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah, so like you've heard of early access though, right? Like that's
Yeah.
pretty common knowledge, I think, is so there's a very strict difference between early access and playtesting, and that is essentially playtesting is the game isn't released yet. It's not released into early access. You're not paying money for it. You're just like strictly helping the developers to playtest the game, just like Amazon's New World is doing right now, where right now you can request a code and get access to New World and help them work out the bugs and mold the game into something that everybody can enjoy. Early access, on the other hand, is basically developers saying, well, it's not a finished product yet, and I think we probably need some money to get it across the line. So if you're willing to support the cause, go ahead and buy the game now, and usually it's at a discounted price, and start playing it now and let us know your bugs and everything, and then maybe someday in a year or two, we'll do a final release and we'll let you know when the 1.0 version is available. So, so I mean, the strict difference is playtesting allows you temporary access to an unfinished game. Early access allows you full access to an unfinished game. And so also, I mean, you could do a Steam playtest prior to or alongside an early access. That's one thing that they actually talked about during their announcement. So it doesn't support this whole beta testing. I'm getting back to the actual playtesting that I'm trying to talk about. It doesn't support commerce or monetization, and it's not a replacement for Steam early access. But it can be run alongside of it. So it also allows the developers to limit the amount of players with temporary access. So you're probably wondering, like, well, how does it work? So you can navigate within Steam's store page of unreleased games, and if the developers are requesting participation on their playtest, you'll see a request access button. It's a green button, and it's going to be stored within this join playtest field. It'll say like join this game's playtest, and then there'll be like a green button, and it's like usually like halfway down the page. So even if the playtest is full, you still can request access. You'll be put in a queue and eventually get some access. But yeah, this functionality is still in beta. This playtest functionality is only available for Total War Elysium right now, which has a playtest beta running. So if you want to go check out Total War Elysium, you could go do that now and hit request playtest, and maybe you'll get access, maybe you won't. But yeah, you'll install the game. It'll be a temporary install, which gets removed later on, and it's only a partial install. They won't give you the full thing, so I don't think it'll be a big one. But yeah, man, here we go again, just like stuff that makes sense,
Yeah, so I'm cute. Like, so have they been doing playtests for a while now? It's just you don't have to enter like an access code, and it makes it a little bit easier.
I would say it like this: like Steam hasn't been the one that's. I'll say it like this: developers haven't had the option to manage their playtest through Steam, like this. In the past, you would have to go to a developer's website or the game's website, submit your email, validate it, and then they'll send you a code, and then you can access the game stored within Steam using that access code, but there wasn't like a whole lot of functionality there where the game could like limit how many people got into the game, right? Because everybody with the code would get in. Now it's like it doesn't matter. They were basically setting the boundaries by giving out a certain amount of codes. Now it's like, well, I don't have to send you a code. I don't need to collect your address or your email address or anything like that. It's just, 100 people click this button. I can choose to let 50 in.
Right.
And then nobody else gets in. And then I can remove access for the first 20 and let another 20 in. And, so it's basically just allowing developers to manage, and it's making it easier for gamers to find out who's doing a playtest, because a lot of times it's like, well, who knows, right? I don't know about these games. So if you find a game that isn't coming out for 3 years, you put it on your wish list. Maybe in a week or two, you come back and, oh, there's a playtest. Oh, I could try this out to see what it's like, So I think that's, a lot of really cool things kind of bundled up in just very simple functionality now.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome, man. I always wanted to be a game tester as a kid for my profession, so now's my opportunity to do it, but not get paid for it.
Yeah, I know. That's how I feel. Well, I mean, you could always stream on Twitch and maybe turn it into money that way.
And that's a pretty good idea. That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, good for developers. I'm sure the more feedback that they can get, the better. So help them squash out the bugs, get games out to the people faster. So that's great, man. That's awesome.
I love it, man. I think we had a very good show, but that's the end of it for us, man. So I think we're going to go ahead and close it out, right?
Yes, definitely. So real quick before we wrap it up, guys, just another reminder to subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on your favorite podcast player, whether that's Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, doesn't really matter. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Really, we want to hear your feedback, guys. So just shoot us a message on Instagram, Twitter. Check us out on our website. Leave us a feedback there. We want to know what makes this show good for you and how we can improve. But if you really want to help us grow, guys, you want to go the extra mile, please share this episode with a friend. That word of mouth is really what helps us grow. And we appreciate you guys being here and appreciate your support.
Yeah, just to emphasize, let us know what you liked. Let us know if you didn't like it, and let us know why. Need as much help as we can get, and we appreciate all the help we can get. Thank you.
See you guys.